A really important thing when communicating with people is that, of course, that you want them to hear what you're saying, understand it, act on it. But my guess is that sometimes you have the experience that people don't hear what you're saying, don't understand it, and don't act on it. And even worse, they feel hurt by the words you've said and then resentful towards you for having said them. If you've ever experienced that situation and you want to figure out how not to have that happen again, then this write-up is for you. What happens is we've got two basic parts. Humans have two basic parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The amygdala, when it's triggered, causes the emotion of fear and anger and the thoughts of fight or flight to basically kill or run away. And that's what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to avoid someone their amygdala getting triggered, because if it does, then they can't hear you. The only part of their brain that can rock and understand and appreciate and want to act on what you're saying is the prefrontal cortex. You have to make sure the amygdala doesn't get triggered and the person's brain activity stays in the prefrontal cortex. So how do you do that? Well, what are the things that cause people to have their amygdala get triggered? When they feel that you don't see any value in them at all, then they simply go into defensive mode. This person, they view you as the enemy because they believe that you see them as the enemy. So first they need to see that you see them as an ally. Second is, if they do feel your intent is to hurt, then they'll get triggered. They need to see that your intent is to help. Third, if for whatever reason they get surprised, like it's sudden, it came out of nowhere, that's often when the amygdala triggers. And finally, when they feel judged, when they feel like whatever you're saying is a statement of fact, because fact is arguable, and they may not agree with the statement that you're making. So the key is to, how do you avoid these four things? Here's how I think you avoid them. One is to make sure that a person feels that you see them as an ally. You state it. Simply say, hey, I think you're an ally. I think you contribute positively. I see value in you. And here's an example of the value that I see in you. And state an example. Second, how do you make sure that person feels that your intent is to help, not to attack? Again, clearly state that as well. I just want to let you know that my intent here is to help you. I want you to succeed. I'm not trying to attack you. I have some thoughts about ways I think would help you succeed even more than you are. Are you interested in hearing them? That's something you could say, and the person would say, oh, the person's trying to help. Third, how do you prevent the person from getting surprised? Well, again, you just tell them, hey, I'm going to share something with you. Again, my intent is to help. However, there's a good chance that when you hear this, a part of your brain may get triggered and feel anger and fear. That is not my intent. I don't want to trigger those emotions in you. My hope is that you'll be aware of this possibility. And if you do feel anger or fear, please let me know immediately and I will stop and I will rewind and redo. Fourth is feeling judged. How do you get someone to not feel judged? Well, people feel judged when they hear something that sounds like a statement of fact. You are doing that wrong. That sounds like a statement of fact. And so that's arguable. But whatever it is, any statement of fact will cause people to feel judged. Any statement of thought will cause people to feel much less judged, maybe not at all. So for example, if you say, hey, I'm not saying this is a fact. This is simply a thought that appears in my head. Here it is. I think, boom, you made a huge disclaimer ahead of time that this is not a fact, just a thought that you have. Now, of course, a fact is very arguable, and you have no more authority of what fact is than anyone else. But a thought in your head, you are the world's expert on that. No one can argue of what you say is the thought in your head. So therefore, you make it unarguable and not a fact when you say, this is my thought. Now, of course, saying, hey, this is not fact, this is just a thought that appears in my head over and over and over again is going to be too much. So once you say it the first time, then the next times you want to make a statement, you simply can say, hey, I think, before whatever your thought is. And that's called an I statement. I think, I believe, I feel. You're the world's expert in that. Everyone will most often accept an I statement from you. But if you forget to say the I statement and just go into, you are wrong, people will feel judged instantly and go into reactive mode. So again, hopefully these methods of preventing these four things from happening, again, the things we're trying to avoid are the person feeling that you don't see any value in them, the person feeling that your intent is to attack, not to help, the person getting surprised, and the person feeling judged. But with these methods, you can prevent all four of those, and then much more likely your thoughts will be able to get into their prefrontal cortex, and they'll be able to hear them and understand them, and then hopefully act on them. And if you want to make really sure that they did, you can always ask them to confirm. Hey, I want to make sure that I communicated clearly. Would you be open to sharing back with me what you understood me to say? And then you'll get confirmation. You can get confirmation whether they really truly did understand it. And if they did, and you'd then like to know if they accept it and will act on it, you can simply ask them that. You can say, hey, do you accept that? And if you do, are you willing to act on it? And if so, what do you think you're going to do? And then you'll get to hear the detail of what action they'll take.